My name is Navid and this incident took place in 2011. At that time, I thought our life was difficult but ordinary. I had no idea that some things had silently begun to breathe in the walls of our house. We lived in an old settlement in Lahore. Narrow streets, ordinary houses attached to one another, water tanks on the roofs, broken bricks, and dried plants here and there. Our house was no palace. Inside the four walls was a small courtyard, a bathroom on one side, 2 rooms in front, and a third room at the back which we used as a store. This house was built by my father with his life's earnings. He was no longer in this world. My mother was also gone. Now in this house were me, my wife Samina ***, my 3 sons, 1 daughter, and my youngest sister Rabia ***, who still lived with us. My 2 elder sisters were already married. I worked in a factory. I would leave in the dark of morning and return tired and exhausted in the evening. The salary was just enough to run the household. The children's school fees were often a burden. Sometimes I had to borrow from acquaintances. Sometimes at the end of the month, I would calculate how the next month would pass. Despite all this, there was a kind of peace in the house. The children made noise. Samina would scold them while working in the kitchen. Rabia would often sit in the courtyard stitching clothes. In the evening, the sounds of the neighborhood's calls to prayer would mingle with one another. Motorcycles would pass in the street. Somewhere in the distance, a vendor would call out. Everything was familiar, ordinary. That day was also completely ordinary. In the morning, I went to work. The afternoon heat was intense, and the sounds of machines in the factory echoed in my head. When I returned home in the evening, the children were playing in the courtyard. Samina told me that Rabia had made a good curry. We all ate together. At night, as every day, I was tired. After putting the children to sleep, we went to our rooms. It was around 10 or 10:30 p.m. Samina and I were lying in the room. Rabia was in her room. The children were asleep. There was silence in the street outside. Only occasionally the sound of a dog barking would come. Suddenly, I felt as if something had moved somewhere inside the house. At first, I didn't pay attention. Old cupboards and wooden trunks often make sounds at night due to cooling. I had just turned over when that sound came again. This sound was coming from the direction of our storeroom. I called out to Rabia, go check. Perhaps a cat has gotten inside. Rabia replied, okay, brother, I'll look. I heard her get up and go toward that room. The sound of the door opening came. Then a few moments of silence. My heart wanted to go and see myself, but I thought Rabia would handle it. Then her voice came, brother, there's nothing here. I got up and went outside. Rabia was standing near the door of the storeroom. The bulb inside was on. I went inside. There were the same old trunks, a broken fan, some old utensils, the children's small bicycle. I moved each item with my hand. I opened the trunks and looked inside. I shifted things around. There was nothing. I said, perhaps it was a rat that hid out of fear. Rabia nodded. We closed the door and returned to our rooms. That night I fell asleep, but in some corner of my heart, that sound remained faintly present. After that, several days passed. Nothing happened. No sound, no strange occurrence. I also pushed this incident out of my mind. Life returned to its routine. Morning work, evening home, children's school issues, monthly expenses, and then another night. That day was also ordinary, but the night was different. That night everyone was asleep. I was in a deep sleep when suddenly I felt as if something was being dragged forcefully. I woke up startled. The sound was coming from that same room again. This time it was not faint. It was clear, as if someone was inside moving things around. I got out of bed. Samina turned over in her sleep but did not wake up. I slowly came out of the room. As I approached that room, the sound grew louder. My steps slowed on their own. I grabbed the door handle. My heart was pounding. I slowly opened the door. As soon as the door opened, the sound stopped immediately. I turned on the bulb. The room was lit. Everything was in its place. The same trunks, the same items. Deep silence inside. I stood there for a few moments. Then I went inside and moved the items again. I looked but found nothing. I closed the door and went back to my room. I had just lain down when the sound started again. Now I was getting angry. I thought it must be some animal bothering us. I got up again, opened the door, turned on the bulb. The same thing happened. The sound stopped. Silence, empty room. I cursed in my heart. I closed the door and this time forced myself to sleep. The next morning, on my way to work, I told Samina and Rabia, "Today, clean that room completely. Take out every item one by one. Whatever is there will come out." When I returned in the evening, everything was in order. I asked, "Did you clean?" Rabia said, "Yes, brother, we took everything out. There was nothing inside." I said in a stern tone, "There must be something. You people didn't look properly." But Rabia kept saying that they had checked everything. After the cleaning, several days passed with nothing happening. We also assumed that perhaps an animal had come and gone. I did not know that all of this was just silence, the calm before the storm. And when that silence broke, it gave us no time to recover. After the cleaning, several days passed with nothing happening. We also assumed that perhaps an animal had come and gone. I did not know that all of this was just silence, the calm before the storm. And when that silence broke, it gave us no time to recover. The days were truly peaceful after the cleaning. I would go to the factory, return, sit with the children, sometimes talk with Rabia on the roof. Samina was also relatively at ease. We would sleep peacefully at night. If my eyes fell on the storeroom door, my heart would pause for just a moment. But then I would convince myself that everything was over. Then that day came. The routine that day was like any other, but perhaps some things a person does not feel, only remembers later. In the morning, I was more tired than usual. A machine had broken down at the factory. The supervisor's voice was hanging over my head. I couldn't even eat lunch properly. When I returned in the evening, the children's noise in the street was a little louder. Someone in the neighborhood had guests. Women were standing at doors talking. Laughter could be heard. When I entered the house, Samina told me that her aunt had come in the evening. She sat for a while and left. Rabia had made tea. I picked up the cup, but my mind was elsewhere, for some reason. My eyes kept going to the storeroom door. The door was closed, exactly as it always was, but I felt as if it was looking at me. After dinner, we all went to our rooms. The children fell asleep early. I was tired, so I also closed my eyes quickly. At some point in the night, I felt as if someone had come very close to my ear and said something in a soft voice. I woke up startled. The room was dark. Samina was in a deep sleep. I tried to control my breathing. Perhaps it was a dream, I told myself. I had just gotten out of bed when suddenly there was a light knock. That sound was very faint, so faint that at any other time I might have ignored it. But this sound came from that room, the same room whose door was locked from outside. My hair stood on end, my heartbeat quickened. I stood there for a few moments and listened. Silence. Then I slowly moved forward. My feet felt as if they were stuck to the floor. I stood in front of the door. I told myself, "Navi, this is nothing. Perhaps it's just the wood." I grabbed the handle. My hand was wet with sweat. I opened the door and turned on the bulb. The room was empty, everything in its place. No movement, no sound. I looked inside, took one step, then two. Nothing. I closed the door. As soon as I turned my back, the sound came again from inside. This time, it was as if something had fallen from above. My heart seemed to stop working for a moment. I turned and looked, but this time I did not have the courage to open the door again. A strange fear had filled me, the kind that does not make noise but sits inside. I went straight to my room and lay down. I closed my eyes, but sleep did not come. The same sound, the same knock, the same silence kept circling in my mind. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, that was the first thought in my mind. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want the children to be scared or Samina to worry unnecessarily, but something had broken inside me. Now, even when I worked at the factory during the day, my mind remained stuck at home. At night, when I tried to sleep, my heart would sink. A week passed. In this week, there was no sound, no knock, but my peace did not return. I felt as if something was waiting patiently, as if that silence was preparation for a decisive moment. And then came the night that changed everything. That evening we had guests. Some of Samina's relatives came. There was conversation in the sitting room, laughter, tea. The children were happy. I was also trying to appear normal. Late at night the guests left. We closed the door, turned off the lights, and everyone went to sleep. Near midnight I had to get up to use the bathroom. I went slowly, took care of my business, and was coming back. I was about to enter the room when suddenly I heard a sound. This sound was different. It was not the sound of something falling or dragging. It was the sound of a woman crying, very faint, very suppressed, as if someone was sitting behind a wall and crying. My heart started pounding loudly. My body began to tremble. I told myself it was my imagination, but the sound would not stop. It kept coming. I have never understood why, despite being so terrified, I moved toward that room. I slowly reached in front of that door. My hands were trembling. My breathing had become rapid. I softly opened the door. As soon as the door opened, there was complete silence and darkness inside. I turned on the light and stepped inside. At that moment, the bulb went off by itself. I was startled. Then the door also closed, and I clearly heard someone locking it from outside. What I saw after that still follows me to this day. Inside was only darkness, but it was not the darkness that comes when a light goes off. This darkness was heavy, as if the air itself had stopped. There was no sound in the room, but the silence was screaming. The sound of my own breathing echoed in my ears. With every breath, my chest felt as if it was caving in. I took one step back. My feet could not feel the floor properly. My heart was beating so loudly that I thought everyone would wake up. I reached my hand toward the latch, but the door did not move at all. Then I realized I was not alone. In the middle of the room, something was moving lightly in the air. At first, I thought it was a trick of the eyes. I blinked, closed my eyes tightly, then opened them. That thing was becoming clearer. It was not a complete shadow. No clear shape, as if darkness had molded itself into the form of a human. Its height was somewhat taller than an ordinary person, shoulders spread strangely, and I could not see the face fully. Only that the face was unnaturally large. And then I saw its teeth. They were not white. They were shiny, but not like teeth, as if someone had arranged long, thin, bone-like things in a row. It was not smiling, but its teeth were clearly visible. In the darkness of the room, those teeth were the clearest thing. No sound came from my mouth. My tongue felt frozen inside. I took another step back. My shoulder hit the wall cold, hard. I could not go back. It came forward. With every step, I felt the air in the room decreasing. Breathing was becoming difficult. I raised my hand and pressed myself against the wall as if that would give me support. "Who are you?" These words were in my heart but could not reach my mouth. It did not stop. It came right in front of me, so close that I could feel its presence. There was no smell, but there was a coldness, the kind that seeps into the bones. Suddenly that same sound echoed in my ears, the sound of a woman crying. But now that sound was not coming from outside, it was coming from inside my head. My hands were trembling. My knees were shaking. I closed my eyes. But that scene was present even in my closed eyes, as if it had entered inside me. Suddenly I felt as if someone had grabbed my arm. The grip was strong, but I could not feel any hand, just pressure. Pain rose in my chest. My breath completely broke. I wanted to scream, but there was no voice. My limit had ended. Those teeth came closer, so close that I felt it would swallow me now. One thought was in my mind, that I would die here, in this room, in this darkness, and no one would know what happened to me. And then everything broke. A loud sound echoed in my ears as if something had exploded from inside. The darkness in front of my eyes became even deeper. My legs gave way. I slid down the wall, and before my head hit the floor, everything disappeared. I had lost consciousness. I don't know how long I was unconscious. Time had stopped there, or perhaps I had gone outside time. When I regained consciousness, the first thing I felt was the weight of my own body. It felt as if I was trapped in a stranger's body. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids were heavy. There was severe pain in my head, as if someone had been hammering inside. Voices were coming to my ears, but not clearly. As if people were talking from a distance. Then slowly the voices began to come closer. Navid, Navid, open your eyes. It was Samina's voice, worried, broken. I tried to open my eyes. The light stung them. The ceiling felt spinning. I was lying on the floor, not in this room, but outside near the courtyard. Everyone was standing around me, Samina, Rabia, the children, even a couple of neighbors. I wanted to get up, but my body would not cooperate. Brother, are you okay? Rabia's voice was trembling. I wanted to speak, but my tongue felt numb. My throat was dry. I only felt that something wet was on my face. Samina wiped my face with trembling hands. It's blood, her voice choked. There was indeed blood on my face, as if someone had scratched with nails. There was burning, but the pain inside was far greater. I remembered the image of that room. Those teeth, that darkness, that locking latch. They tried to lift me. My feet would not properly touch the ground. I could not walk on my own. 2 people supported me and laid me in another room. Severe shivers ran through my body. Within a short time, fever began to rise. My head was burning. My eyes began to close again. I was in a semi-conscious state. Rabia gave me some pill, but I don't remember if I swallowed it or not. I was neither speaking nor answering anything. That same scene kept playing in my mind again and again, like a film stopping and starting. Evening had fallen. Samina called my eldest son. Go and bring your maternal uncle Ali quickly. Ali arrived within a short time. He was shocked to see me, the wounds on my face, my condition, the fever. He shook my shoulder. Navid Bhai, what happened? I looked at him, but no words came out. My tongue was locked. I could only look at him. Perhaps everything I could not say was in my eyes. Ali asked everyone one by one, but no one had answers. Everyone only said that I had been found in this condition in the morning. The night deepened. My fever did not subside. I would open my eyes sometimes close them. Sometimes I felt that room was around me. Sometimes I felt I was there again. Ali finally said, "It's night now. Nothing is clear. In the morning, we will arrange for a scholar or a spiritual healer." Samina nodded silently. Rabia's face was pale. The children sat huddled in a corner. That night I did not sleep, or perhaps I slept, but it was not sleep. It was waiting. And I did not know that with the next morning, the memories that would return would break me to what extent. I opened my eyes to the faint morning light spreading in the room. The fan was running slowly, but its air was not reaching me. My body was heavy, as if someone had buried me in the ground all night. There was pain in my head, but not like last night. The fever seemed a little less. The first thing that returned was not the sounds, not the teeth either. The first thing that returned was the feeling that I was not alone. I turned slightly. Samina was sitting on a chair, dozing. Fatigue and fear were both frozen on her face. Rabia was sitting on a prayer mat on the floor. She saw me move and immediately came toward me. "Brother, are you conscious?" I nodded slightly. My throat was dry. Rabia brought a glass of water near my mouth. I took 2 sips. As the water went down, it felt as if something broken inside began to flow. "Can you speak?" Her voice held both hope and fear. I closed my eyes, then opened them. My tongue was heavy, but this time it was not locked. "Where is Ali?" My voice did not sound like my own. Rabia immediately woke Samina. Samina looked at me and her eyes filled up. After a while, Ali arrived. He sat near me and placed his hand on my shoulder. "Now tell me what happened." I looked at the ceiling. One by one, the scenes were returning, but as if someone was forcibly pulling memories. I slowly told everything: the knock, the sounds, the crying, that room, the light going off, the latch, the shape, those teeth. Complete silence in the room. No one interrupted. Samina's hand was on mine, but it was trembling. Rabia's eyes were filled with tears. When I fell silent, Ali took a deep breath. "This is not ordinary. Navid Bhai," his voice was serious. "I am going. I will find a scholar or a spiritual healer." He immediately left the house. Time began to crawl in the house. Every minute was heavy. The children were silent, as if they too realized something was wrong. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes it felt as if that room was calling me. About an hour and a half later, Ali returned. "There is a scholar," he said. "He has said he will come at night to see." Waiting for the night was difficult. The sun set and the heart grew heavier. After the evening prayer, there was a strange silence in the house, as if everything had frozen. At night, Ali brought the scholar. He was middle-aged, with a white beard, simple clothing. On his face was neither harshness nor drama, just a settled peace. We all sat in one room. The scholar came close to me. He began asking questions: where, what, when, what did I see, what did I hear? Then he slowly began to recite verses and prayers, his voice deep and continuous. After a while he told Ali, "Tie a black cloth over his eyes." My eyes were covered. Darkness fell, but it was not like the darkness of that night. The scholar recited for about an hour. Sometimes cold would run through my body, sometimes heat. Then he said, "Open your eyes." When the cloth was removed, I felt for the first time that I could breathe. The weight in my head was a little less. My heartbeat was returning to normal. The scholar said, "Do not keep this cloth in the house. Go to the kitchen and burn it." Then he said, "Now I am going into that room. You all stay outside." He entered that room with the Quran. The door closed. We all sat outside. 30 to 40 minutes passed. Every moment was heavy. Finally, the door opened. The scholar came out. In his hand was a talisman. "This talisman was placed in that room," he said. We were all surprised. We never saw anything. He told us this is black magic and it was deliberately placed. Ali asked, "Who placed it?" The scholar did not answer. He left but gave a talisman which I had to wear around my neck. Years have passed since this reality. We no longer live in that house. The children have grown up. Life has moved on somehow. People say time heals everything, but some things do not heal with time. They just become silent, like that room became silent. Even today, when sleep suddenly breaks at night, or a faint sound like wood shifting comes from somewhere far away, my body tenses on its own. I know that sound is no longer there. That thing is no longer in that room. But it is also true that some experiences do not leave a person. The person carries them for the rest of their life. And sometimes, silence itself becomes the greatest fear.